everybody. Still taking care of the hungry? Good to see you. Okay. So we're going to show. Is that it?
Yes, sir. Thank you, everybody, for arriving so promptly. You'll get started. If you can maybe close the door now. Hello, everybody. My name is Hannah Kim, and I proudly work for Congressman Charles Rangel, who is hosting this congressional briefing and discussion with Kenneth Bae, who, as you know, was detained in North Korea 2 years, started from 2013, right? Yes, 11. I regret to say that Ambassador King was not able to join us today. However, we are very honored to have Ambassador Joseph Detrani join us. And as you may know, that he was also a special envoy for negotiations with North Korea before his formerly and presently he is the president of the Intelligence and National Security Alliance. So he will be able to share his insights. And of course, we're also honored to have Congressman Rick Larson, who represents the district of Terry Chung, who is Kenneth Bae's sister, where she resides. So we will get started. I will introduce Congressman Rangel really briefly. He is a decorated Korean War veteran, so he, like Kenneth Bae, has been to North Korea quite a long time ago. But I can definitely say that the congressman is a champion of Korea and Korean Americans in Congress, and he has passed probably most numerous bills pertaining to the Korean Peninsula, including a resolution that encourages peace and unification on the peninsula. So without further ado, the congressman.
Hannah, thank you so much for the work that you do to make my job so easy. And Ken, I can't thank you, but you did give an opportunity for human beings to realize how blessed we are in not having to go through the nightmare that you went through, as well as your dynamic mom and sister. No human being could have had more of a display of love and support and devotion than you. And of course, my buddy Congressman Larson, he was tested as a member of Congress because very few of us have constituencies that have faced the horrors, and he had always given me the encouragement, as well as the whole House and Senate, and saying it could happen to any one of our constituents, perhaps in some other country and some other where, but it gives us a chance to come together as Americans, and not as Republicans and not as Congress people, but to support when an injustice has been done to one of our citizens. And thanks to all of you, I come here to learn more about a situation that defies human understanding. We in our country have not really gotten over our Civil War as much as we've made progress. But in 1950, I was 20 years old, And I wanted so badly to get out of Fort Lewis, Washington, that when they said it was a police action, I thought I could be a policeman without taking a civil service exam. But I learned on the way over there that it was actually war. What I still haven't understood is how a family could be split in a division on political grounds and form such a hatred in the North that they would abuse one of their own family. And the answer to those questions go unanswered, not just for me and the ambassador and our State Department, but even their sponsor, China, their responsibility. So we're anxious to learn as much as we can, and Ambassador Trani, who represents the thinking of our country, has fortunately joined with us so that all of us can leave as not just better Americans, but better human beings, to realize that no matter what we think our problems are, no matter what difficulties we have, no matter what political challenges we face, they are so minor compared to what Ken has gone through. And how fortunate we are that God has allowed him to come back with strength of body and mind to share this experience with us, to make us better human beings and better Americans. And so, Representative Lawson, this is just another indication as to how our friendship has allowed us to be elected to do good. And our efforts in our Congress and our country, no matter what small part we played, we did good because Ken is with us this afternoon. Representative Lawson.
I'll just speak from here, if you don't mind. Thanks, Charlie, for inviting me to be part of this. I wanted to thank Charlie for organizing this event and inviting me here. And this is actually the first time, actually out in the hallway about 3 minutes ago, I met Kenneth Bae. For me, this adventure started in a Panera Bread restaurant in South Everett, Washington, meeting with his sister Terry and his mother to hear their family's story. And it was a difficult one to hear because it's usually never a good thing when one of your citizens is put into a North Korean prison. And also, with what little we know about North Korea and how to work with North Korea, even made it more difficult about what steps to take, what next steps to take. So there's a lot of people who deserve thanks in this. Our State Department working behind the scenes, and I know Ambassador King couldn't be here today, but certainly deserves a lot of thanks. I want to thank my staff as well that I've had over this time, because we couldn't talk about too much of this, about what was being done for some pretty obvious reasons, and that we didn't really wish to give North Korea any sort of idea that we were talking about it, because again, we're dealing with a regime that we don't know how they'll respond. We didn't want to jeopardize the chance to get Kenneth home. I want to thank them. I want to thank the Swedes as well, Swedish Ministry of Foreign Affairs, who represent our interests as best they can in North Korea, for their work. And I do, though, and I want to end by thanking Kenneth's family, who deserve credit for endless patience and perseverance. Patience with me for my inability to communicate too much to them. For them to have gone through this, again, as Charlie mentioned, it's nothing anyone wishes on anyone, but finally, Kenneth Bae deserves a lot of thanks for his fortitude, for his faith that kept him strong. We're going to hear a little bit about that. But ultimately, his ability to withstand this despite his illness that we've heard a lot about, to withstand this captivity and then to come home safely is a message of strength in oneself and strength in one's faith that is a character that we should frankly all try to emulate as best we can, even in our everyday world. So it was a challenge for many, but it wasn't, for any of us, it wasn't that much of a challenge compared to what Kenneth went through. And I'm really glad that he's here to share his story, and also glad that he's chosen to be a constituent, continue to be a constituent in my district rather than
I tried to get him.
No, we're glad to have him home. Welcome home, Kenneth. Yes, sir.
Ambassador, thank you so much for what you do for our country to make us so proud and for being and sharing your views with us.
Well, thank you, Congressman Rangel. It's an honor being here, truly an honor, and certainly an honor sitting next to this gentleman. Because he went through a lot. Kenneth, you're strong, you're inspirational to all of us, and it's great to have you. Look, let me just say, Ambassador Bob King.
Audio.
Audio, I'm sorry. Ambassador Bob King worked very, very hard on this, as did our Secretary of State and indeed our President of the United States. A great deal of concern about the well-being of this man and the joy that everyone had when he returned. When our Director of National Intelligence went out, he came back with Kenneth Bae. That was a very special time. I can tell you the government of the United States was very concerned and worked long hours knowing that this man had to come back. This was important for the United States. But as the Congressman said, everything has to be done discreetly and in a proper fashion. It's President, Secretary of State, Ambassador Bob King, you mentioned the Swedish ambassador. Obviously, it's the strength of this man who could take 2 years of hard labor and live in a very difficult, extremely unimaginable environment for 2 years and be healthy of mind and body and come back this way. It's important. It's important as we go back to 2009 when the other two journalists returned to the United States, because we don't leave our American citizens, colleagues, by themselves in a place like North Korea. We work hard to get them back because they need to be back. And it was with great pleasure that starting in 2009, and now there are 2 additional Americans in North Korea that have to be returned. And that's important. And I can tell you the government of the United States, working very quietly, very discreetly, working closely with the Swedish embassy, the Swedish ambassador, is working hard, as we did to have Kenneth came back with Matthew Todd Miller on a plane with the Director of National Intelligence, who was sent at the request of the President to come back with this gentleman and Miller. This is the commitment this country has to our citizens. And this is the gratitude we have for you being such an inspiration for all of us. So it's with great honor that I've been invited here. I can just say that the government, but certainly when you talk of the government, we're talking about these 2 gentlemen, these 2 congressmen. Congressman Rangel, you've been just you're an inspiration for everyone that deals with any issue that touches the Korean Peninsula. Inspirational. I teach at a school, and you're a model.
Come see me now.
Come see me.
Thank you, Ambassador. I can definitely attest to that because Mr. Rangel, the Congressman didn't say so, shared this with you, but since the first anniversary of Mr. Bae's detainment, he has issued statements, he has written letters to the dear leader. He has been on multiple interviews on TV, on radio, calling for his release. He was never afraid to call him. So thank you, and of course thank you to Mr. Larson. And I have a passage that Kenneth Bae has written in his book that he'd like for me to share before, and it really captures the essence of his book, and it is, I am eternally grateful to the hundreds of thousands of people who pray for me every day. During my press conference, I said, I am standing strong because of you. Because of the prayers of people around the world, I was able to endure my trials and continue to have hope to be released. Those prayers not only brought me home, but also enabled me to stand strong. My victory was our victory. I not only came home, but I came home stronger than ever. I felt as if I had been on a personal retreat with the Lord for 2 years.
Well, I just want to say thank you all for coming out and also to be part of the story that God put me through the last few years. The life before North Korea was quite different for me. 2005 was the first time I met with North Korean refugees and visitors from North Korea. And just realize that how people are living without freedom, not knowing what is really happening outside. And also they have no idea of who God is. As being a missionary, North Korea was always in my heart. I wanted to see if we can do some good for the people of North Korea, to be the blessing, to be the bridge to connect the North Korea to the Western countries, because North Korea is so mysterious and it's kind of cut off from the rest of the world. And so only the few people given opportunity to be in and out of North Korea. So I was just praying and wondering if it's possible to be able to visit North Korea for the first time. And that happened 2010 for me. I visited North Korea with the invitation of the government to see other people's work, humanitarian work in North Korea. And this is when I realized that it's possible to bring Western tourists into this city called Rajin, which is the northeast corner of the North Korea. It's open for economic development for foreigners to be able to come in and start businesses and special projects for North Korea. And so I did ask to see if it's okay for me to bring some tourists there, and they say yes. And this is the first time they opened up the door for Western tourists to come in for that period of time. And so from 2013 to 2011 through 2012, for 1 year period of time, I organized tours, various different tours for people around the world to be able to go to North Korea. I did ask about 300 people. I did ask that maybe 300 people from all over the world to participate over 1 year per time. I'm thinking that doing 4 things. One is, how about we go to North Korea and see for ourselves? We hear about report from Western media. And how about the people who are interested in North Korea to be able to go there and see the land for themselves? 2 is that by doing so, the people will have more compassion towards the people in North Korea. And possibly if there's any open door to start mercy projects and businesses and different things, it will give them opportunity for them to engage in deeper for their trips. And so the second thing I wanted to do is see if people can go there to pray for people in North Korea. I wanted people to walk the land and just pray that someday the people in North Korea will be able to know God, just like in the rest of the world, and to be able to worship God as if they were pleased to do so. And the third thing I ask people to do is to go and not only pray, but worship in behalf of North Korea, because of that, my conviction as a missionary was that I want to receive the worship from North Korea. And because North Korea, especially the capital city, Pyongyang, used to be known as Jerusalem, the Far East. There are more Christians living in Pyongyang than any other city in Asia 100 years ago. But now, so the country is so cut off, and they built a wall around there. And so there's no way knowing how many Christians out there, no way knowing if there are believers left in the nation. So we as Christians who are foreign tourists to go in, we worship, because it's not legal. It's not illegal for foreigners to worship in our own spaces, on our room, and in hotel room and different places. So that's what I asked people to do. The fourth thing was to demonstrate the love of God by smiling and just a gesture, any type of a humanitarian way that we can help, so that the people in North Korea will be able to see there's a life, the life they live is not everything they have, they need to live for. So I organized a tour and start bringing people in. And on my 18th tour, there's a total of 23 trips together through my company. That's the when I got detained. That was 2012, November 3rd. Because simply I made a very crucial mistake. I brought in the external portable hard drive into the country that contained some of the footage from Western media about real inside North Korea footage. So the documentary film contains some children picking up the noodle from the street, and some of the footage that we saw, the famine between the 1997-2002 that affected North Korea, and then Western media covered that possibly about 3 million people more are perished away during those period of time. So obviously that the footage that I had in my hard drive was really disturbing for them. Even though I did not realize I had those clips in my hard drive, because that was given by one of my friends a few years ago. I didn't have a chance to look at most of the footage that was in the file. So that's what happened, that I was actually detained because of hard drive I brought in. And they wanted a question to see what's the real purpose, who's behind this, and who do you want to give this to? And so I had to explain to them it was purely by mistake. I forgot to take it out from my briefcase before I crossed the border, and now you have it, but I didn't mean anything bad. So I apologized many times because it was pure mistake. I did not mean to offend anybody. But that hard drive also contained all the mission work that I've done in China and North Korea, and the pictures and mission letters. And therefore, they realized that not only I brought in the hard drive, but also my real identity was missionary. And therefore, they wanted to know more detail about my work and who's behind it, what's the scope of the whole thing. And then they ended up charging me with attempt to overthrow the government. And then they said two things. You attempt to overthrow the government through prayer and worship. And I asked them, why you don't even believe in God? Why are you afraid of people coming to pray? Because you may have more faith than most Christians do. And so I tried to explain to them, but they found it very disturbing when they said when people come to pray, you probably have the people to pray against us. And then also, I did train one North Korean lady who was visiting North Korea and China at one point, and then she stayed with us, and she did receive some biblical training. But she went back to North Korea and wanted to start a Christian orphanage. And so I said, what is that a crime against the state? But she just wanted to go and help the street children. And then this is what stunning statement the North Korean official told me, that if one person became Christian, come back to our country, start a Christian orphanage, raise 10 children to be a Christian, 10 will become 100, 100 will become 1,000, 1,000 will become 10,000. When that happens, do you think they're going to be a threat to us or not? If they break our unity, they break the faith in our leader, and therefore you're going to turn our country upside down. Therefore, we have to charge you with attempting to overthrow the government. And so they transferred me to Pyongyang, and they told me that I'm going to be going to a trial, I'll be indicted, and then I received a 15 years hard labor sentence. At first, they told me that I was facing life in prison or death penalty. That was supposed to be, that's what fit the crime, but they ended up giving me 15 years instead. And then I was only a few Americans that I know that were sent to labor camp afterward. So time in labor camp was very difficult, as you can imagine. I had to work from 8 o'clock in the morning until 6 o'clock at night, 6 o'clock in the evening, for 6 days a week. consisted of working the farm, doing farming, digging the ground and carrying rock. In the winter time, I was shoveling the coal into the furnace, and so I was doing real hard labor in North Korea. But meanwhile, the North Korean government wanted to make sure that my health, they're concerned for my health. So therefore, every week or so, they brought in the hospital, brought in the prison doctor to check up on me. And about staying in the hard labor camp for about 3 months, they transferred me to the hospital for another 3 months. So I was going back and forth from hospital to the labor camp. Meanwhile, my family were very concerned, and finally, the North Korea broke the news that they brought their media to cover my story. And after that, my case was widely known. And my mom came to visit me when I was in Pyongyang Hospital. That was 2013 in October. When she came to visit me, I realized that so many people outside are really concerned and praying. And I received about 450 letters from the people I never met before. So they're always saying is, Kenneth, we are not forgotten. We are standing with you. And so hang in there, help is coming. And so there was a great encouragement for me to knowing that people outside care, that I'm not being forgotten, and the U.S. government doing everything possible to secure my release. When I heard that there were 2 attempts, one in August and September of 2013 by U.S. government to try to send a special envoy to secure my release, was all failed, which means that one time the Ambassador King was supposed to come, they canceled the invitation in his trip, and after that, I had a visit from White House, National Security Council member, came to visit me for a very short period of time, but he couldn't take me home at the time. So I have to make a decision. I have to wonder. And I've been, because I'm a missionary, I'm a Christian. I've been praying every day, asking God to bring me home, but it wasn't happening anytime soon. And this is when my mom also sent me a letter, and stating that now is time that you need faith, like Daniel's 3 friends from the Bible, that they were facing the furnace, that they're facing a severe trial, but they were saying that my God is able to save us, but even He does not, and then that kind of faith is what is required from you. I realized that I'm going to be staying here a lot longer than I thought. But I thought no American ever stay in North Korea for more than a year, and I knew that I was going to stay longer. So I have to make a choice whether I'm going to whether I can start panicking and not doing what I'm supposed to do, or am I going to accept this? I have to pray, and I finally came to the conclusion that if it's God's will for me to stay, I would like to stay and give up my right to go home in my own conscience, so that I can be here as missionary I was supposed to be. So after that moment, that my life changed dramatically, and then for my idea, my perspective of life in prison changed, because I was no longer there as a prisoner per se, but I was there as a God's ambassador, or because somebody was sent from God to do God's work. And then there were many doors open afterward, the opportunity to share and with the guard and other people around me. And then later on, I getting into closer relationship with many of the people that are surrounding me. And suddenly, then I realized that I was convicted as a criminal. They said I was the most dangerous and worst criminal, the American criminal they ever apprehended since the Korean War. And now, after building relationship with people, they're starting to consider me as more like a friend. And when I left, 2014, in November 3rd, the last word from the North Korean official was from the warden of the prison. He shook my hand and he said, "I want to see you again some days." So he said, not as my prisoner, but you're welcome to come back. And I thought that meant something during the time in North Korea. It was difficult.